Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatar varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. We start today with the aphorisms. Given all the background that we have gone through, I think we are good to start with the first aphorism of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. We will keep some time towards the end for some guided practical meditation. So that will orient us towards his teachings. Moreover, the first aphorism itself is now commences the instructions on yoga. In Sanskrit, Ata Yoga Anushasana. Ata is the first chapter is, was, and will always be meant for the elite yogis. I can imagine some of these students going to the guru. They have already been prepped with the theory, and the guru will explain one aphorism, and they will practice that. Then they will come to the next aphorism and practice that. They have already behind them solid practice. So this is one of the reasons why therefore now. And the second word in the aphorism is instructions or the lecture, but technically it means the discipline. Atha, now therefore, commences the discipline. It is Anushasanam. Shasana is to discipline. One has to have that kind of discipline. So it's technically now thus commences the disciplines. This person already has these yogis. I imagine them to be young students who are studying this step by step, this yoga philosophy. Now, this yoga philosophy, just to kind of go off the track a little, is based on the Sankhya philosophy. The Sankhya philosophy is one of the oldest philosophies in the ancient world. It was ancient, even at the time of the Mahabharata, etc. It's mentioned even in the Vedas. Even Bhagwan Buddha was a practitioner of this Sankhya yoga. So one of his first teachers was Alarama Kalame, something like that, Alarama. So he was practicing Sankhya yoga. So you can imagine this philosophy and this yoga practice was there before. The Sankhya system has got two ultimate categories. One is consciousness or the spirit, and one is matter. Okay. This spirit is consciousness, and this matter is always transforming or evolving. So the entire spirit is separate, but it reflects in this matter. Now, what is the matter made of? From the intellect to the sense of I, to the mind, to the sensory objects, to the sensory organs, the motor organs, the body, etc., etc., all form the categories of nature. spirit and nature, consciousness and matter. So everything that is matter, this includes the mind, even the sense of I is included in matter. And the highest category in this is called the buddhi, the intellect. It is the intellect that first catches the light of consciousness and which is transmitted to all the other categories of nature. When you find Sri Ramakrishna explaining, there is something called the 24 categories of the Sankhya, 24 categories of nature. So these are the various categories. Okay, we won't go into that, otherwise you will get sidetracked into Sankhya philosophy. Suffice it to say, these are the two ultimate categories. Somehow spirit has got mixed with matter, and the matter thinks it is spirit. And the bond has to be broken. That's the idea. So once the bond is broken, and what is the cause of this bond? It is nothing but ignorance. Yes, it's the same old thing, ignorance. So this prep, the theoretical side was already taught to these young students, and they knew what they are going to confront with. Now, the idea is also in the second part of that aphorism, anusasanam. That is, you've got to now start the reverse journey. The discipline consists in the reverse journey. We are too externalized, and the reverse journey has to begin. And these are the practices of yoga. So the mind and the senses have gone out. And this is one of the reasons why yoga is completely internal. It does not bother about any other thing external. Because why? Oh, the internal world itself is very large, consists of the mind and the senses. Swami Vivekananda gives a nice example of an oyster. A little grain of sand or some irritation gets into the oyster, and the oyster throws out its own enameling, its own enamel. And in time, that becomes a pearl. So the external objects, they impinge on the mind through the senses, and the mind throws its own enameling, as it were, around that which has come from the external world. The external world is only nothing but vibrations. Something comes from outside through the senses in the mind reacts and throws out its own enameling. That's why we can never really know the external world as it is. It is always joined to the mind. The second principle of Sankhya Yoga is, and also Vedanta, Sankhya Yoga is, the Sankhya philosophy was so pervasive. Now you'll find it in almost all, in Indian medicine like Ayurveda, and all these things you have the three qualities, sattva, rajas, tamas, etc. Even Vedanta takes these conclusions and they are like sacrosanct. So what they did was, to explain all these 24 categories and all these various divisions, they brought out a philosophy that reduces all these various categories into simpler things. They say it's name and form. Everything in this universe, whether it's external, whether it's internal, it's all name and form. It's called Nama Rupa. Everything that has form can be named, has an idea behind it. And every name will recall a form. These two things have been conjoined. I mean, it's eternal. So every object has a form and has a name, whether it's called a subtle form or a physical form, tangible form, it has a form. The whole of nature works on this principle of name and form. If it is there in the external world, the internal world also, the subtle form of that external world, there's also the name and form here. This name and form in the internal world is called Chitta Vritti. Chitta is the mind stuff, and Vritti is the whirlpool. The whirlpool, in other words, is nothing but name and form. Every thought is nothing but a name and form. Think of it. I mean, the analysis was brilliant. How to reduce everything to this simpler categories so that everybody can understand it. So this was, now the only problem here is everybody, like every mind is different from every other mind. The external world also, all the objects are different from each other. Even in a factory which manufactures goods or products in a similar fashion, yet you will find no two products are similar. Though they are manufactured in the same processes, there are no two products that are similar. No two objects are similar. Not the same. So the cause of this diversity is the reason, is the cause is actually the three gunas of nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas. And we've discussed sattva is light and purity and knowledge, etc. Rajas is passion, desire, activity, all that, name and fame. And tamas is indolence, sleep, everything that's negative. So these three forces combine and recombine within all these 24 categories of nature, and they create this diversity. They were the first, the Sankhya philosophy were the first to predict that everything evolves. Everything. Long before Wallace or even Darwin, they had the doctrine of Satkaryavad, that is the doctrine of evolution, transformation. From the subtle, the things are mixed up and then they become physical, tangible. The subtle cannot be perceived by the senses. It can be perceived only in the higher states of the mind. They are called tanmatras. Okay. So these are some of the principles of Sankhya philosophy. Okay. So because in the next verse, next aphorism, he says, yoga is the controlling of the waves in the mind. Yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha. Nirodha is to control. Chitta, as we have seen, is the mind stuff. And the vritti is the waves, the name and form. Okay. So yoga is the controlling of the mind stuff from breaking into waves. When the mind is perfectly still, there are no waves. That is called samadhi. So the commentator says yoga is samadhi. when all the waves in the mind have been perfectly held still. There are no waves. There's no perception. There is no external perception. There is no internal perception also. It is that time when the inner self reveals itself. You can detect or you can apprehend it, the consciousness which is reflected in the mind. So think of it as the water in a lake. If it is muddy, you cannot see the bottom. The mud settles down, the breeze stops blowing, everything is still, everything is placid, hell. It's then when you can see the waves, you can see the bottom of the lake. Otherwise, the, the lake, the water is muddy and is full of waves, it's choppy. You cannot see it. So when the waves are still, the mind has become purified, the dust has settled. This is yoga, I say. Okay. Now this mind stuff, it is very subtle and every perception takes place in it. Think of it as also a recording machine. Everything that comes in the mind is recorded. That is the problem. Yeah, when you sit down to meditate, that's where all the problems come in. So the mind stuff has this memory of everything that you've done. Of course, it has a good side because you don't need to relearn things every time. You know it. But the negative side is, those are the guys who are coming in and going to disturb your concentration. So it is called technically the impressions in the mind stuff. These impressions in the mind stuff it's a large storehouse. And the yogis say it's not only in this lifetime that you've accumulated all these. It's a long, long train that you are dragging forward, onwards and onwards and onwards. It is something that you don't even, Swami Vivekananda calls it, quoting an English poet, trailing clouds of glory we come. Then he adds, trailing black clouds also we come. So we trail both all the glory and all the black clouds also. So we do not realize that we are the product also. We are today the product of all that we have done, said, and thought. That has chiseled us. And so to control this, now you're going to ask me, my God, what is this? It is going to be a not only uphill task, it's going to be an impossible task. It's one of the reasons why the yoga philosophy says, no, if you do it properly, you can take care of it. First, he says, the commentator says, there are two sets of impressions in the mind. One are the knowledge impressions which do not bind you. And one are the karma impressions. The knowledge impressions are everything that you know. Just like you've studied something, all those things are there. But the other impressions, that which are tinged with desire, egotism, hate, anger, greed, jealousy, etc., they are the ones that need to be neutralized, not these ones. So you've got 50%, you can say relief. You've got a tax relief there. Okay. These are the ones you got to hit first. And these karmashaya, it's called karmashaya, the impressions of karma, and jnanashaya, the impressions of knowledge. Sometimes the impressions of knowledge becomes the impressions of karma. Why? Because suppose I know chocolate chip cookies, but if I have a strong desire for chocolate chip cookies, that is going to bind me. Yeah. Sri Ramakrishna says, even a desire for a rasgulla, those cheese balls, soaked in, you can see the sugary syrup, even that we'll have to take a rebirth again for that. Of course, he's just telling us to be careful. So ordinarily, the mind, the yoga commentators say, it actually wants to go back to its own natural state. When you disturb a body of water, a lake in this case, after a while you see it settling down, trying to settle down. That is the nature of everything in this universe. It's trying to go back to its causes. And then something comes, some turbulence. And then again, the whole surface is whipped with waves. And then again, it wants to settle down. Again, so the chitta, the internal organ, wants to go back to its natural state, but it is pulled out through either the senses or through the memories. Look at it like that. This is the example I generally give. We have a lake at Tapovan, Tapovan. And we have a Swami who likes to feed fishes. He'll throw some fish feed in it. And what will is that the fish will come and sometimes leap out of the water and grab it. Oh, just on the surface. So from the external world, sensations come in and the mind throws out its own enameling, as it were. Both these together form a wave. And then the wave does not disappear completely. Again, you throw in another pellet of food and that fish comes up again. So it's a constant process, something from the external world and something from the internal world. They coincide, and this is the chitta vritti, the wave in the mind. And all waves have name and form. So all waves give knowledge. There is no wave in the mind that is just without any knowledge. All knowledge comes through this waves. But as I said, the only problem is it leaves a scar. It leaves a mark. And we have plenty of scar tissues. And cleaning the scar tissue is actually what is the purification of the mind. So this chitta vritti. Now, as a chitta is the mind stuff. What is there in the mind? What are the components? There are 4 components. The three actually. The chitta is the ground. We have the intellect. You have the sense of I, and you have this and the mind. When a sensation comes in, it's referred to past memory. That is the function of the mind. And then the next step in the process is it places it in the sense of I. Yeah, I know that. And then the intellect, the buddhi, gives an order. Okay, I want a chocolate chip cookie. oh, I don't want it, oh, forget it. So the process is so swift, it's not discernible. And these things were discerned by yogis. The chitta is the material actually of the mind, the sense of I, and the intellect, buddhi. These are the internal categories of nature. They're very subtle. Everything you say, do, think, imagine, you feel is recorded. And these memories are not just floating about. They form into groups. And these groups are linked to each other. It's like a team. One team, two teams, three teams. I don't know how many teams are there. And all the memory impressions, the scars are linked to each other. That's the reason why when I think of a chocolate chip cookie, I think of a shop or a place or a time where I had this. So everything is linked. So when we try to meditate and a thought arises, a train again comes along with it, and you're trying to suppress that. This is the nirodha, the control. You're controlling not only the impressions, but also the waves. So these two things. So the first job of the yogi is to control the external senses. How does a person control the external senses? Yeah, that is another thing. If you're sitting and meditating and the phone rings there, you're gone. So it is the control of both the external sensation and the internal reaction. Remember, this reaction inside is so fast, it hits the chitta, the mind vibrates. What is this? And the I says, there's something coming. And the intellect says, oh, it's an old dead chocolate chip cookie. Don't eat it. Okay. The doctor said, no way, your sugar is too high. Give that up. Okay. The I identifies itself with everything. These are the waves in the mind that have to be controlled. So yoga is the control of all the waves in the mind. So in the aphorism, Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the commentator Vyasa says, the word which has to be supplied here is all, sarva, controlling all the waves in the mind. Okay, this is yoga. And as we have in a previous you can say sessions, we have said what are the 5 broadly classified types of minds. Every mind is different. Every mind is different from every other mind. Like every object is different from every other object. There are similarities, but it's different. And every mind is unique at this point of time. You cannot have this mind now at another time. So this also is recognized in the yoga philosophy. Now, broadly, they have classified into 5 types. One is the restless. I mean, restless and really restless. One is the stupefied mind, the dull, the indolent, the lazy, the negative, this. Swami Vivekananda translates the third as the gathering, as it starts trying to gather itself. This is the beginning of the processes of yoga, the gathering. Then, after it gathers, it becomes one-pointed. And after it becomes one-pointed, it becomes controlled. So the restlessness is there, and then that another dullness is there. This restlessness gives us all the problems in life. Half the problems. It's made of rajas. The darkened state of the mind, the negative state of the mind, is the tamas. Technically, they are called kshipta, muda, vikshipta, ekagra, niruddha. Okay. So, yeah, just take it as restless, the darkening state of the mind. Restless mind, we know what it is. It's that monkey mind. Darkening, we also know. Every time we feel that we should react and hit, all the crime and everything is in this second type of mind. When it starts gathering itself, most of the practitioners of yoga have this third type of mind, where it is trying to center itself, trying to gravitate towards its center. That's a gathering, vikshipta. Then, as it gathers, it becomes one-pointed. And as it becomes one-pointed, it becomes controlled. So, the commentators say these two, the first and the second, are natural to the demonic mind. The third, fourth, and fifth are godly minds. So, I mean, just to classify it according to the old ways, like, these guys will never come to yoga. Never. It is these guys who will come together, third, when it starts gathering. So it is alternatively calm and restless. That is, it's trying to balance itself. You're trying to get inside. You know certain things are harmful now. You have understood. Your life experiences have taught you. Don't do that. Okay, that's bad. You come back. The idea of pulling back. It is there in all higher forms of life. It is also instinctive. But in the humans, you find it's a deliberate pulling back. If this pulling back wasn't there, there would be no society. Absolutely. We have to bear and forbear with each other. Oh my God. Might as well avoid that place. Oh God. Might as well avoid that person. Or might as well avoid this habit. You pull back. This pulling back is a conscious, deliberate decision. This is the first step in yoga. When it tries to. Otherwise, we would never have built a society. Yeah. Never. Yeah, of course, there's a saying, it's a policeman that keeps us moral. Take away all the police and take away all the controls and see what you are going to have. You'll have the third, the first and the second one taking over. So this is the beginnings of yoga, the gathering, the trying to center itself. Yeah, this. And yoga is trying to tell you that this is what is important. Strengthen this. Whenever the idea or the tendency of going out and reaching out, and you always try to pull back. This also is an inbuilt function of nature. One wave throws us off and makes us spread outside. And when that spreads to a particular extent, as much as your body can and your mind can go, the power behind you. And then it recedes back. In this world, everything flows out and flows back in. This is called a pravritti and nivritti in the yoga. Vritti is to spread out. The vritti, the wave, spreads out. And as it spreads out, it dissipates, slowly it weakens, and then it comes back in. But it's already a dissipated wave that comes back. So if you can stop that dissipation at the very beginning, that power is held within. Swami Vivekananda gives an example of a cannonball flying and hitting a wall at a distance. In those days, we had cannonballs, of course, not artillery shells. It goes and hits the wall, and all the power is dissipated. Another is when the cannonball is fired and the cannonball is held there. All the power returns back to you. So all actions which are flowing outward are controlled and pulled back in. Because it is the mind that impels the actions. Thought impels action. Okay. So you start building up the power within. And this power is then utilized for the practice of yoga. Yes, otherwise, how do you do that? Thought also is a very fine power, very subtle. That power is there. Like if I want to move my arm, I can do that. That is, the power has come from the food, of course. And the food, yes, what is food? It is nothing but a form of prana, as we have seen. We cannot take in prana as it is in the subtle form. We have to take prana through food. So physical food gives us physical energy. And that same subtle part of that prana goes to build the mind. So the mind also is power. It has power, the power of prana. And that's why it can move very fast. And it's very fast. Swami Vivekananda says, thoughts are things. They travel far. Be careful of what you think. The other problem with this flowing out, expanding, it touches all these objects. It is tinged with those objects, the defects or the qualities of those objects, and returns back. And that's what colors the mind. Suppose I am sitting down with a group of very good people. My mind flows out, touches all those people, returns with all tinged with good. That goes to build up that good energy. And if my mind goes and mixes around and touches all crazy things and bad people and evil things, it is going to come back again, and I'm going to become crazy and evil, etc., etc. So it is the association. What objects you are now with, that also determines the quality of your mind. Yeah, so that's the reason why they say you have a satsang. You have a satsang. Why? Satsang is the association with the good people. So when you have good people around, the impressions are good first, then your energy also becomes good. It is this energy, good energy, that is employed in yoga, not all types of energies. The good energy is employed here. And this builds up power over and over and over and over again. And this is now employed to go deeper into the mind stuff. And as you go deeper, it becomes more and more concentrated. The gathering, the third stage of the mind, type of mind, is gathering, and then it becomes one-pointed. If you love the object on which you meditate, it's very easy to concentrate. People say, oh, it's very difficult to meditate. Yeah, of course it is. But if you love that object, love that idea, then it becomes very easy. So you concentrate on that which you love. And as that concentration gets deeper, the love also grows deeper and deeper. And as it gets deeper, then you're getting to one of the final stages of the categories of nature, the intellect or the intelligence, which is catching the reflection, the first reflection of consciousness. And then you know the clear distinction between what is nature, the spirit, nature and spirit. There's two things. You can see the distinction. Yes. And then you can separate these two things. This belongs to consciousness or spirit. This belongs to nature or matter. That is the goal of yoga. That is what yoga means. The commentators say yoga is called a samprajnata. Don't worry about it. It is sam is S-A-M, not Sam, some. Perfect. Prajna is knowledge. The perfect knowledge. Because it comes from the root gnya, from the same word from where we get to know, gnosis, etc. So you come to something that's a perfect knowledge. It is this perfect knowledge that the yogi desires. And this perfect knowledge snaps the bonds of ignorance, as we said earlier. So ignorance is snapped through this perfect knowledge. This, in brief, we will take it up in the next class. I've not finished with the Chitta Vritti yet. It's a lot. Because all these things were already known to the students, you see. Now they have come and now they are practicing. They are sitting right down in front of the guru and practicing this. The controlling of the waves in the mind. They know what a wave is. Oh, but what is a wave? Yes, if you control the waves in the mind, you control the entire universe. Because the whole universe, as I said, can be boiled down to two categories, name and form, which are actually joined with name form. You control the mind, you control the universe. And so there are dangers, of course, because nature also has a lot of powers, you can see. And the yogi is not interested in these gross powers like name or fame or wealth and all these. They are these subtle powers. Oh my God. Those are the bigger distractions. They're not distractions, obstructions. Okay. So the yogi does not seek power. He has nothing to do, he or she has nothing to do with any powers related to nature. The yogi wants perfect knowledge through which the yogi or the yogini can become free. Freedom Liberation is the goal of yoga. In the yoga philosophy, it is called kaivalya. It is the final dissolution of the bonds of ignorance. And the spirit now is freed, becomes freed. This is yoga. So yoga is the controlling of the waves in the mind. Remember now, the waves are not only of this present life, of what you have done, everything that has been there. You've burnt out some, you've disabled some, you've increased some. So they are in the form of either they are sleeping, shupta, they are either in the form of, they have become very weakened, tanu. They are scattered, vichinna. They are expanded, they are very expanded. And then the ones which are there, which actually have gone everywhere. It's expanded to a great extent where the action now has become. So it is prashupta tanu vichinna uddharanam. So it's like that. Prashupta is sleeping, though there are sleeping. They are all asleep. Don't wake them up, the yogi says. Let them sleep. Yeah, if you wake up a sleeping dog, the first thing the dog will do is start barking. Keep it sleeping. There are some which have become attenuated. That's a better word. Swami Vivekananda uses attenuated. There are certain things. Chocolate chip cookies now are no good for me because the doctor has said I've got diabetes. Stop it. Okay. So those things have become attenuated, weakened. Vichinna is like one impression has circulated amongst every other impression. So it's there. And then there are some impressions that are expanded. So this, you know what you're dealing with, the mind. And the yogis, they went down and they categorized all these. So I told you the impressions form into two main categories. The jnanashaya, the knowledge impressions, and the karmashaya, the impressions of karma, which will fructify. It's like a seed. You put it in the ground of the mind. They have to, because you wanted it. But later on, you say, no, I don't want it. Okay. Then they are kind of weakened. There are some which are asleep. They've forgotten all these things. Oh, I've got to manifest. So, and then there are some which have circulated themselves everywhere. They're kind of chopped into pieces and separated and gone everywhere. And then the impacts. So this power is now being built up, and now it's going to be drawn in. You will practice something called, it's a first thing that has, when you close your eyes to meditate, you see the thoughts rising and falling and rising and falling ceaseless. It's just unstoppable. The mind hates a vacuum. It has to fill in with something. Not only mind, nature does not like vacuums. Okay. So we thought there's nothing between me and the stars. Now they're finding no, there is something between me and the stars. All right. Okay. There's some matter, some material. Okay. Whether you call it dark material or dark energy, I don't know. But everything is connected. So the mind just hates vacuum. So the mind always will have thoughts and feelings and sensations coming. So the first, you can say, step into calming this restlessness is to avoid watching the screen of your mind. Okay. Now the exercise is, I would like all of you to close your eyes, please. Sit straight, close your eyes. Now watch the screen of your mind. Thoughts come and go. Fleeting thoughts come and go. Now I want you to shift your attention from the screen to a location behind your two eyes, in the center point between two eyes. This immediately dismisses that screen of the mind. Become aware of a point behind the eyes. Okay, open your eyes, please. If you notice, the moment the screen is not being paid attention to, your awareness becomes much more clear. This is now, if you insist on keeping your awareness on the screen of your mind, which is the behind your eyelids, then try to reduce that screen to a thumbnail. That will make you feel, hey, I've got control over this. I got a power over this. This is miniature. This is diminutive. Okay. So we will do the first one, and then we'll do the second one. Okay. Close your eyes, please. Again. First, watch the screen. Then shift your awareness to behind the eyes. Next, take a vantage point in the center of your brain, as it were, where you can see both the back of the eyes. Hold your attention there in the center of your skull. Those who have a mantra can repeat the mantra there. Okay, open it. This is the way. There is less distraction. And when you're trying to do the repetition of the mantra, try to feel it is coming out from within your heart. So it becomes effortless. So as you will notice, as it's like the point, I don't know if the two optic nerves, they join, they cross each other in the center of the brain. So you stand there, like you take a imaginary line from this, between the eyes and from the top of your head, and so that's the point where you need to station oneself. You will find there, as you're aware of that particular location, your awareness will start expanding, because there is nothing to distract it. The moment the attention gets distracted or awareness gets distracted, then the wave collapses. In the modern scientific terms, the quantum wave collapses. So that expanding wave collapses. So expanding consciousness collapses the moment something comes up. So without waiting for that object or anything, you are there, the awareness starts becoming expanded more and more and more. This is the very first step in the practice of yoga. Okay. Now you won't get this in the books. Okay, this comes through practice. Okay. Now I want you to do the second exercise. Close your eyes, watch the screen of your mind, and reduce it to a thumbnail. Reduce it even further. Don't glare at it. Just reduce it. Now tell yourself, I am different from that screen. Feel yourself as a separate entity from that smaller miniature thumbnail. Okay. Om. These are two practical things you can use while sitting. Because generally when you sit down and your mind is racing, you just want to get up. No. Try this out and kind of will, like, for the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I'm not going to get up from my seat. That's the exercise of will. So that also is important. So it makes meditation also nothing but exercise of willpower. Nothing else. As I said, the mind wants to run out, you're pulling it back inside constantly. It becomes better and better. Okay. I'll stop here for now.